Hi, Jonas and Cam. It's Auntie Sarah with Chapter 5 of Mrs. Piggle. Now, Chapter 5, I have to say, is my favorite chapter. It's the one I've always remembered. Some of these I didn't even remember. This one I definitely did, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. It's called The Radish Cure. Up to the time of this story, Patsy was just an everyday little girl. Sometimes she was good, and sometimes she was naughty, but usually she did what her mother told her without much fuss. Sounds like some kids I know. But one morning, Patsy's mother filled the bathtub with nice warm water and called to Patsy to come take her bath. Patsy came in the bathroom, but when she saw the nice warm tub of water, she began to scream and yell and kick and howl like a wild animal. Naturally, her mother was quite surprised to see her little girl acting so particular, but she didn't say anything. She just took off Patsy's bathrobe and said, "Now, Patsy, stop all this nonsense and hop into the tub." Patsy gave a piercing shriek and ran from the bathroom, stark naked, yelling, "I won't take a bath! I won't ever take a bath! I hate baths! I hate baths!" Patsy's mother let the water out of the tub and went downstairs to telephone her friends and find out if any of their children had ever behaved in this unusual fashion, and if it was catching, what to do about it. First, she called Mrs. Brown. She said, "Hello, Mrs. Brown. This is Patsy's mother, and I'm having such a time this morning. Patsy simply will not take a bath." "Pardon me just a minute, Mrs. Brown." She put down the phone receiver and went over to Patsy, who was standing in the kitchen doorway, listening to the telephone conversation and feeling very important. Patsy said, "What does Mrs. Brown say to do with me, Mother?" Patsy's mother said, "She hasn't told me yet. But while I am finding out, you'd better march right upstairs and get dressed, and then you can pick up that messy, sticky, pasty work that you left all over your room last night. Don't come downstairs until every single thing is put away." Patsy's mother picked up the phone, and Mrs. Brown said, "I'm sorry, I can't offer any suggestions because our little Prunella just adores to bathe. Perhaps Mrs. Grotto could help you." So Patsy's mother called Mrs. Grotto. She said, "Hello, Mrs. Grotto. I just called to ask if you could help me with Patsy. She won't take her bath, and I'm at my wit's end." Do you know what wit's end means? It means you just don't know what else to do at this point. Mrs. Grotto said, "Well, frankly, I don't know what to suggest. Our little Parpadeliana simply worships her bath." Of course, our little Parpadeliana is a quite remarkable child. By Thursday afternoon, she said, Yes, I know," said Patsy's mother. "Goodbye, Mrs. Grotto. Thank you anyway." Then Patsy's mother called Mrs. Broomrack. "Good morning, Mrs. Broomrack," she said, a little too brightly. "I wonder if you could do me a favor." "Why, of course, dear, of course," Mrs. Broomrack said. "Well," said Patsy's mother, "this morning for the first time in her life, our little Patsy won't take a bath. The very idea seems to make her hysterical, and I don't know what to do." Mrs. Broomrack said, "Why, you poor dear, all alone in that big house with that unmanageable child. Personally, I don't know what to say because our little Cormorant looks forward to taking a bath. Bathing is his favorite pastime. In fact, sometimes we can't even get him out of the tub." "Why don't you let him stay in?" said Patsy's mother. "Because he might drown," squealed Mrs. Broomrack. All right, so here's a photo or a picture, and I'm not sure if this is Patsy trying to leave the bath and the dog and the cat racing around, or if this is another household, but we'll find out. "Well," said Patsy's mother as she hung up the phone. By the time she was feeling rather depressed because it seemed that bathing was the most popular indoor sport with every child in town but her own very dirty little girl. In desperation, she decided to call Mrs. She should know about children, thought Patsy's mother. She certainly does have her house crawling with them day and night. It was certainly fortunate for Patsy's mother that she thought of Mrs. Piggle, because although Mrs. Piggle has no children of her own and lives in an upside-down house, she understands children better than anyone in the world. She's always ready to stop whatever she's doing to have a tea party. She's glad to have children dig worms in her petunia bed. She has a large trunk full of scraps for doll clothes and another trunk full of valuable rocks with gold in them. She is delighted to have children pick up and look at all the little things that she keeps on her tables. And when Hubert Pretense dropped the glass ball that snowed on the children when you shook it, she said, "Heavens, Hubert, don't cry. I'm so glad this happened. For years and years I've wanted to know what was in that glass ball." Mrs. Piggle takes it for granted that you will want to try on her shoes and go wiggling around in high heels. Sounds like a pretty fun place. Which is probably why she was not at all surprised when Patsy's mother told her about the bath. "I suppose we all come to it sooner or later," she said. "Well, from my experience, I would say that the radish cure is probably the quickest and most lasting." "The radish cure?" said Patsy's mother. "Yes," said Mrs. Piggle, "the radish cure is just what Patsy needs. All you do is buy 1 package of radish seeds. The small round ones are best, and don't get the long white icicle type. Then let Patsy strictly alone, as far as washing is concerned, for several weeks. When she's had about an inch of rich black dirt all over her, and after she is asleep at night, scatter the radish seeds on her arm and head. Press them gently, and then just wait." So Mrs. Piggle is saying, let Patsy get completely filthy till she has literally an inch of dirt on her, and then to put the radish seeds on her head and on her arm. "I don't think you'll have to water them because we're in the rainy season now, and she'll probably go out of doors now and then. Then the little radish plants have 3 leaves. You will begin by pulling the large ones. Yes, Patsy will probably look quite horrible before the radish cure is over. So if you find that she is scaring too many people or her father objects to having her around, let me know and I'll be glad to take her over from here. You see, all my visitors are children, and dirt doesn't frighten them." Patsy's mother thanked Mrs. Piggle very, very much for her kind advice, and then called to Patsy's father and told him to be sure to bring home a package of radish seeds. Early red globes, she thought they were called, the little red ones. The next morning she didn't say a single word to Patsy about the bath, and so Patsy was sweet and didn't act like a wild animal. The next day was the same, and so was the next and the next. When Sunday came, Patsy was rather dark blackish-gray color, so her mother suggested that she stay home from Sunday school. Patsy's father by this time had been told of the radish cure and didn't say anything to Patsy about washing, but he winced whenever he looked at her. By the end of the 3rd week, they had to keep Patsy indoors all of the time because one morning she skipped out to go get the mail, and the man, on seeing her straggly, uncombed, dust-cake hair and rapidly forming layer of topsoil on her face, neck, and arms, gave a terrified yell and fell down the front steps. Patsy seemed quite happy, though. Of course, it was getting hard to tell how she felt, as her face was so caked with dirt that she couldn't even smile or talk. "Okay, is I am antsy, I take a bath," she had said a little teeny-weeny bites. She had also had teeny little bites of food because she couldn't open her mouth more than a crack. So she has dirt caked all over her face. Have you ever gotten that dirty? Maybe, but I bet it didn't last too long. Naturally, her father and mother had stopped having any friends in to visit, except in the evening when Patsy was in bed, and even then they were not at all comfortable for fear that Patsy would wake up and call, "Ink, ink, ink, tear, Daddy," Really bring me a drink of water, Daddy. That's what she was trying to say, but her mouth didn't open. At last, however, the day came when Patsy was ready to plant. That night, when she went to sleep, her mother and father tiptoed into her room and very gently pressed the radish seeds into her forehead, her arms, and the backs of her hands. When they had finished and were standing by her bed, gazing fondly at their handiwork, Patsy's father said, "Repulsive little thing, isn't she?" Patsy's mother said, "Why, George, that's a terrible thing to say of your own child." "My little girl is buried deep in that dirt, so I can't even remember what she looks like," said Patsy's father, as he stamped down the stairs. The radish cure is certainly hard on parents. Quite a few days after that, Patsy woke up one morning, and there on the back of her hand, in fact on the backs of both hands, and on her arms and on her forehead, were green leaves. Patsy tried to brush them off, but they just bent over and sprang right back up. She jumped out of bed and ran down the stairs to the dining room where her mother was. "Oak, oak, and oak," she squeaked. Her father her father said, "Behold, the bloom of youth." And her mother said, "George," and then jumped up briskly and went over to Patsy and took firm hold of one of the plants on her forehead and gave it a quick jerk. Patsy squealed, and her mother showed her the little red radish that she had pulled. Patsy tried to pull one out of her arm, but her hands were so caked with dirt that she couldn't grasp the little leaves herself. So her mother had to. When they had finished one hand and part of the left arm, Patsy suddenly said, "Other hand, I want bath." "What did you say?" asked her mother, busily pulling the radishes and putting them in neat little piles on the dining room table. "I want bath," said Patsy, so plainly that she cracked the mud on her left cheek. Patsy's mother said, "I think it better be a shower," and without another word, she went in and turned on the warm water. Patsy was in the shower all day, and she used up 2 whole bars of soap, and she didn't even come out for lunch. When her father came home for dinner, there she was waiting for him at the door, clean, sweet, and smiling, and in her hand she had a plate of little radishes. So there we go with the radish cure. The next chapter is called The Never Want to Go to Bedders Cure. So we'll read that one next time. Okay, bye-bye. Love you.